Bells and whistles are literally killing me. As you know, I'm working on KinoVibes, cinematography course for 3D artists, and I'm recreating iconic film scenes from scratch in 3D. From scratch here means only using assets I own the complete rights to. That means only things that I make myself, or things that I somehow find on the internet that are 100% public domain. No stock assets. Now, I've completed 2 scenes, yay me, good work, pat pat. But I've done some quick maths. I've got 14 example scenes planned for KinoVibes, so 12 remain. And I started this last year, so that's roughly half a year divided by 2 finished scenes, carry the derivative of the hypotenuse, and it works out to me dropping long before KinoVibes does. That's no good. But now it's January, it's a new year, it's time to shift gears. Now is the time for speed, now is the time for momentum. Momentum and progress. So let us make a scene from a film about an emotionally stunted failure to launch. Solid. So this is the scene, the famous fridge scene. No spoilers ahead, I don't think. Mr. Jester has a fridge like normal people do, and he uses it for normal people fridge things. It seems like this would be a fairly simple scene to shoot, not very complex, but it is asset heavy because it's messy and it's full of junk. And asset heavy is the worst kind of heavy for making a scene in 3D, so thanks a lot for that one, mental illness. But I chose this scene specifically because it's a one-shot masterclass in color contrast by cinematographer Lawrence Sher.
Did he just go in the fridge?
In the course, I'll break down exactly how and why, but for now I'm just going to keep this completely spoiler-free and start building it myself. After finding surprisingly few references of the room and guesstimating some room measurements, I threw up a couple of planes and a chunk of basic shapes, and boom, we have a room. There's no need to worry about anything else yet, especially not making or animating the actual human character Mr. Prankster himself. Not yet, thank God. My only concern was getting the proportions right. Roughly right. But I did put a little bit of extra love into doing the lighting of the scene, because that is, after all, the point of making the scene in the first place. This whole scene is going to be an exercise in getting it done versus doing it right. Now, speed is the mission. And this time, I'm not just going to track my time. I do that for every job. This time, I'm going to have total time transparency. No hiding. Every single minute accounted for and put up right there on screen. So, blocking this scene out puts us up to 4 hours and 45 minutes, including digging up a reference. Next, I did the room a bit more properly. So the windows, the skirting and the coving, anything that's nailed down. 1 hour, 45 minutes. Then, the big stuff. Larger type pantry. Larger type pantry. Cupboards, counters and cabinets. 4 hours, 45 minutes that took. The cabinets had 4 different types of handles. Sink, found one for free, nice. Didn't look right, rebuilt it, 30 minutes. Tap, same deal, another 30 minutes. Stool, hardly any tweaks necessary, 15 minutes. Stove, perfect, except for the hierarchy. And it's electric when it should be gas, but I don't need to tell anyone that. 15 minutes. Outlets, light switches, make a preview, 30 minutes. Total so far, 15 and a half hours. Radiator adds another 30 minutes, and then fridge, freezer. Specifically, what appears to be a 1953 GE combo fridge freezer in OK condition for a scene taking place in 1981. That's 1 hour 15 minutes for research and reference. Yes, this is about speed and momentum, but also about picking battles. The fridge is basically the second character in the scene, and I think that justifies this battle. After all, what is it if not just a bunch of boxes? And then a bunch of boxes on those boxes. And then weirdly shaped boxes on those boxes. And very weirdly shaped boxes inside of those boxes. Slap some weirdly shaped logo shapes on that, and the worst UE job you've ever seen, 13 short hours later, fridge and freezer. Still untextured, mind you. But once in the scene, it almost felt worth it. Almost. It finally feels like I'm getting close to done. This is the home stretch now, because now it's just bits and bobs left. Random trash in the apartment. Answering machine. phone, weird food, I mean really weird food, pots, pans, bin, painting, apron, lamp above the sink, and newspaper. Curtain, rug, chairs, all copied from my arrival scene. Lovely. 6 hours, 15 minutes later, we've actually gotten somewhere. All that's left for us to do now is to... So it's not quite January anymore, is it? So what happened? Well, Pockets was hungry cause bread bin was feeling thin. At the same time, clients came in, regulars too, so I didn't want to turn them down. After all, what's not to like about that? Making a good wage, doing good work with good people. Add to that I was migrating hundreds of students on the Process Motion course to the new platform, manually. It actually left very little time for anything else. So, after a slight pause on building a future to buy bread, here we are, 7 weeks later. Now, where exactly does that put us? Well, the scene hasn't moved. It's exactly where we left it, the lazy bum. And maybe a slight pause actually did me some good. Because I'm sitting here with a newfound sense of cannot be asked, and nothing helps you prioritize your time like the slump. For instance, all of this, it can simply go. It's all out of shot anyway and would only ever be seen in the CG file. The blind is good enough. We won't see it very well, it's going to be hidden behind a curtain. We don't need a cooler or anything on top of the fridge, it's going to be too dark there to see anyway. Blender? Nah. Coffee pot will do. An appliance is an appliance. Altogether, stripping that back probably saves me at least 4 to 5 hours. So, with this newfound laziness, let's speed back into it. A hook? 15 minutes. Curtains? Considerably longer. See, now we're back to cloth sims. A lot easier than Muad'Dib's robes, but still, if it can go wrong, I guarantee you it will. But it was still quicker than searching the World Wide Web for some public domain asset that would look like it fit. And I'm pretty pleased with how I made these little tassels at the end by just cloning them onto a polygon selection. That was fun. 2 hours. Dish towel, actually a tablecloth, again, stolen from the arrival scene and retextured, 15 minutes. I needed a city outside the window, and I found a very usable one after about 30 minutes. And then pictures to put on the fridge. Now, I'm not sure what Mr. Buffoon's mother puts on their fridge, but I eventually found a bunch of period-accurate New York City postcards, now in the public domain, and made accessible by the New York Public Library. And they looked like they fit fairly well. 1 hour. But now, for some good old-fashioned photoshopping. Sampling the wallpapers directly from photos of the set. Bit cheeky, I know, but by the time I'd finished it, I had practically rebuilt the whole pattern from scratch anyway. And having the wallpaper matched 100% tickles me something fierce. 1.5 hours. Floor, made a hexagonal displacement map, and mixed it with some beauties from Polyhaven. 1 hour. And then there's this boy. Oh yeah, he's not textured yet. To be fair, he didn't need that much work, since I managed to keep a lot of things geometry that could have been textures. Still, 4 hours, 45 minutes, including redoing some of my absolutely garbage UVs. But dang, he looked good in the scene. Rest of the kitchen, I could mostly recycle materials from the fridge, and after the fridge texturing, I also had an overall grime texture that I could slap on top of just about anything to make it look terrible. But in a good way. 2 hours, 45 minutes. But now, it is time for me to face my nemesis, the naked fire ape, making Mr. Wisecracker himself.
It's me!
On the bright side, I have no hope. No matter what I do, Mr. Comedian will never look or move realistically. So whatever my result, it's simply gonna have to be fine. Naturally, I started by looking at more penises than I'd hoped to. It took an hour, before I found a reasonably proportioned public domain torso. That's a strange new sentence. And looking at the time, it actually took less than 15 minutes to do, but I felt like it took at least an hour, so I'm going to log it as taking at least an hour. And then I built the texture. And to be honest, I'm not sure just how much of this I can show on YouTube without getting flagged, but it happened a little something like this. And after just 1 hour, the result was beautiful. You see, I really wanted to use this model. I'd already made this lovely chap from a photogrammetry scan I did of a 360 video of a mannequin in a suit on a clothing website. Again, a bit cheeky, I know, but quite literally victimless. And I'm not about to somehow find a 360 of a naked man to scan or model one from reference. My retinas have already had their fair share of penis for one day. So, instead, I whipped out my sculpting brush and I did my best to make a crappy scan of a suit look like a crappy naked torso. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the right way to do this sort of thing would be, but I'm 100% sure that this is the wrong way. 1 hour later, however, and the results, well, they speak for themselves. Great. Now I'm limited on time, so I can't hand animate him. And I'm limited on budget, so getting a mocap set up is well out of the question. And that's why I make do with Mixamo. And that is legitimately an amazing resource, even if the UI is a bit eh. But a quick browse and an hour later, the man was done. Add an hour refining the lighting, and where does that put us? Puts us right up against the finish line, I'd say, with a total time of 55 hours. It's actually come to the point where I think it's time we unleash our secret weapon, the nitpick.
I am untethered and my reeds knows no bounds!
First, put up the trousers, 15 minutes. Fix the apron, 10 minutes. Tweak Mr. Goofer's animation, 25 minutes. And it wasn't much better, but at least it doesn't bump his head. Fix the foot going through the fridge door on the floor. Oh yeah, I had a great idea for this. I'll make it really simple. I'll make the box dynamic, have some other things be dynamic, and when he knocks it, it'll bounce around a bit and add a bit of extra premium animation. That's cool. But you know how that goes. Anyway, 1 hour later, I gave up and I just let it look the way it looked. And it was okay. And then I made, about 100 cabinet doors wonky, 15 minutes. Brighten up the painting, 5 minutes. And then I spent 50 minutes tweaking the light, which at this point was a little bit tricky. Because when you're looking at a reference like this, you don't know how much of the colors in the light comes from the set, the lights on set, comes from the camera, or comes from the grading suite. But at least it didn't look worse after it was done, so that's something. And then, optimizing. Hunting down grain. Increasing one value, decreasing another. Stopwatch in hand, looking at the difference between them. 2 hours all in all, including setting up render passes, object buffers, and hitting the render button. Of course, the machine I rendered on had a slightly newer software version, so all the colors came out looking quite... Had another 30 minutes of reinstalling software, and it was time to hit render again. 6 hours later, that I'm not going to count, it was finally rendered. And after however many hours I'd worked on it, it looked absolutely nothing like the original shot. Ladies and gentlemen, looks like I've got a fever, and the only cure is several layers of compositing. 1 hour, 2 hour, and 10 times as many layers, 20 times as many effects. 3 hours, 4 hours. All I can say is I wish the inventor of object buffers a long and joyful life. 5th hour, and not a single pixel was left unturned. Finally, add 15 minutes of sitting in my seat like a zombie, clicking between my scene and the original, trying to decide if it's worth doing anything more to it. Until finally... Now, there's not going to be a point trying to bamboozle you and sneak this shot past you like I did last time. I know you're definitely still going to be able to spot the difference between this and the original. So, here it is, standing alone on its own 2 feet. I am very pleased with it, except for the obvious clown in the middle of the room. But the lighting, I feel, is 100% there. And the total time in the end? 65 hours and 45 minutes. For a bit of context, June was 41 hours, 45 minutes, and Arrival, 46 hours, 15 minutes. So this scene, the one where the goal was speed and momentum, took almost 50% longer than the average. Yeah, that's awkward. Sure, the fridge took a fair bit of time, and there were plenty of little humps and bumps on the road. But the simple truth, it do be like that sometimes. Some scenes are going to be easier, some scenes are going to be harder. That's just the deal. But hold on a second, you might be saying, something doesn't quite add up. 41 hours plus 46 hours doesn't quite make 6 full working months. First of all, what are you, some kind of a maths police? Second of all, fair play, Sherlock. Those 90 odd hours are but a single droplet in the vast spittoon of the past 6 months. If you add in researching the cinematography, writing the theory scripts for the course, plus moving the whole process of motion course from one platform to another, and migrating hundreds of students, did I mention manually? Oh, and 2 months of other client work. It does begin to add up. Listen, life always finds a way to get in the way. And if it doesn't, that just means death got in the way instead. So, you cherish the moments that you get, and you do what you can with the time that you have. And don't forget to enjoy the interruptions that you just can't avoid. But I guess that means that this whole momentum mission was nothing but a momentous failure. And I just spent 65 hours focused on speed, only to prove that I am in fact slow. Well, I'm sorry to say that you have once more been bamboozled. This scene was never the target. The real target has been right in front of you the whole time. Making my next episode video took me 124 hours, 30 minutes. The video breaking down my Dune scene, 120 hours, 30 minutes. But this one, just over 50 hours. That's well over a doubling in speed. I'd say that's momentum. And it just goes to show that just maybe the hit film Joker 2019 was me all along.
It's me!
Now, Titan patrons, your vote matters. Go to Patreon, tell me which scene I should do next. And everyone, please, stay in motion.
Some men just want a tangerine.